So, I mean, what did you... Right, the King's speech. Right?
Yeah.
In our house, it used to be religion to sit down and watch the Queen. I have to confess, I missed it yesterday, the King's speech. Did you watch it?
It's never been something on our radar to do. I mean, I'm not much of a monarchist, I have to say, but I did really respect and admire the late Queen. King Charles, for me, just doesn't quite catch it, doesn't quite hit the note for me. So in any event, it wouldn't have been something as a norm for us to do on Christmas Day. So therefore, it completely flew out of the window, metaphorically speaking, of course. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I think I did suggest it at 3 o'clock because we've got a baby niece, 2 years old. So timing's all sort of, revolved around.
Yeah.
Absolutely rightly so, with it between Christmas presents, and she's a bit ill at the minute. So it was just sort of, when she's awake, when she's not. So, but it got to about 3 o'clock when we started to eat, and I did suggest to the table, can we just watch the King's speech? And I got short shrift from the rest of the family. So it was a sort of, no, we're going to eat now. I said, OK, I'll watch it later on. Didn't quite get round to watching it all, but I did see the highlights of it, and him talking about the war and conflict, particularly in the Middle East, and making sure that we can all extend peace. And
I thought that was really interesting, actually, as a monarch, to actually delve into. I mean, there was obviously his climate's very, very close to King Charles's heart, but also as defender of the faith, as head of the Church of England, I thought it was lovely that he actually quoted the Bible and mentioned the fact of peace and goodwill in this festive season, especially as you had Pope Francis, head of the Catholic Church, at the Vatican for the Papal Mass, Midnight Mass, to say that, the birthplace of Jesus clearly was Jerusalem, regardless if you're not a Christian or whatever, that is what Christians believe, and Justin Welby as well, to often mirror what was said. And both of them, if you actually look at the speeches and look at the quotes, they haven't come out on the side of the Israelis, nor the side of the Palestinians vis-a-vis Hamas. They actually spoke about the need for a ceasefire, being pro-life on both sides, but the release also of the hostages that are being held on both sides, and the innocence of the children, especially at the time of Christmas, birth of Christ, being caught up in all of this. I mean, there was very powerful messages there.
I think that's one of the things, Charlie, I was concerned about, because the Queen was always completely apolitical in literally everything she did. Charles, as we know, has always actually got involved. Remember the spidery letters that he wrote to Parliament? I was a bit worried that he would be a bit more political than he actually was, but I think Claire's right. It was a very balanced speech, wasn't it?
I think so, and Claire's absolutely right. It was, the interfaith integration, so making sure that people of different faiths can get along, that we can have a multicultural society and be successful within it. And it's not just talking about those in the Middle East, but when there are issues in this country, when you have a cost of living crisis, when there is an issue with domestic politics and people do find themselves more entrenched in their own views and there becomes slightly more hate in the world, it's about making sure that there is that peace and harmony throughout. And you're absolutely right. He's been very, the King has been an advocate for climate change legislation and for more things to be done in that field. I think in November on his birthday he set up a campaign to make sure that food waste was going not to the was going to people who might be sleeping rough, or to people that can use that food rather than it just going to landfill. So he's a campaigner by heart, but you're right, making sure that he's above politics per se, like the late Queen, is obviously a very difficult tightrope for him to balance. But I think he's been getting it right.
I think what did you make of his living tree? It was the one thing I noticed. I mean, if you did watch at home, he was doing it in the Buckingham Palace room, where just in front of the balcony, was it? So you had the living tree, which basically means it's planted in a pot of earth, so you can take it out in the garden afterwards, with orange on it. Nothing really sparkly on there, was it? There's bits of orange hanging on there, but it meant he got round the problem of having family photos. The Queen always used to do it sitting at a table with family photos dotted around. And she always got taken to task. And the people would always interpret which picture she had. And she didn't have Harry and Meghan the other year, did she? So that was interpreted.
But that's quite a matriarchal thing, though, isn't it? Do you never used to go round to your mums or your grannies or something like that, and then whichever child or whatever was favourite of the month, the picture was always like first on the fridge or first out.
Yeah. We're in a small family, so there's only 2 of us in that family. So it was like we both got pride of place. But I thought that was quite clever, though, Charlie, because it got around any of the political division that is currently, as we know, in the royal family.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, in our house, I mean, I've only got one sister, and down, overhanging sort of the fireplace, down one side of the wall, you've got my sister, and on the other side, we've got our cats. So I think I know where.
That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
So where exactly are you in the great scheme of
I
things?
think in the downstairs loo, I'm afraid. That's about it. That's about it.
Along with the front cover of Private Eye, like everyone else.
Exactly. But you're right. It goes back to. I mean, the King's done a big documentary as well, and I don't think.
Has he?
I think I'm right in saying that Prince William and Prince Harry haven't been included in that documentary about him. Which
Is this the one that's going out tonight? Because there's a documentary going out tonight. It's a year, the coronation. It's like behind the scenes cameras following them.
I think so. I think
Oh,
so. I think
wow.
I'm right in saying
Yes,
that.
I think that's on today, and it's completely behind the scenes, and it shows them being very affectionate. Because I mean, Harry in his book Spare wrote that they weren't a touchy-feely family.
No.
There was no hugging, no kissing. But I think in this, it is shown to Charles to be very huggy, certainly with William and with the grandchildren as well.
Do you know what I found lovely? The walk from the church in Sandringham yesterday, the Sandringham estate. I thought it was lovely that George was holding hands with Zara
Yes,
Phillips'
that was
child.
lovely, yeah.
So that wee child, she's just gorgeous.
Little Mia. Mia, is it?
Mia,
Yeah, uh-huh.
she's just beautiful. And then the hug that Mike Tyndall gave Prince George.
Yeah.
That's what people really want to see, because that is real life.
It's real, it's
Family.
human.
It's very human. It's that human interest that we haven't often been able to see.
Yeah.
And the photo, obviously released by Prince William and Princess Kate of their three children,
kid,
George,
yeah.
Kate, George, Charlotte, and
Yeah, Louis.
Louis.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. I'm here all day.
But that was very modern, wasn't it? It was like sort of like literally t-shirts, jeans, trainers. I mean, very modern.
But it's not what Christmas is about, though, Dawn. I think that's very...
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
jeans
know.
is-
Well, we know.
Yeah, exactly.
We
I know
know.
what you think.
I'm inspired by the royal family.
Yeah.
That's my line, and I'm sticking
Oh,
to
you
it.
spun that one, my love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well done there. But what did we make of talking to them going to church at Sandringham yesterday,
Yeah.
as they have done traditionally? As you say, Claire, it was much more a family inclusive
Yeah.
feel to it. So much so that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson...
I know, right?
...was there, and that's the first time, I think, since 1991 or 2, is it? It's a long time.
Very odd. I mean, it's very odd, especially with the column inches that came out about Victoria Giuffre a few days ago about Prince Andrew. So there's still issues there that I don't think any of us are particularly comfortable with. And yet to see Fergie, who's come through breast cancer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
she is
absolutely,
still the
of
mother
course.
of Eugenie and Beatrice. And it's nice for them maybe to have their mum on board, on site. But I think it's quite a huge move.
I think so. What do you make of that, Charlie?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 1992, I think, or 3, when
it's
she had
a long
something around a long
time, yeah.
time. I mean, I know it's 2 or 3 rather, so it's not my history.
Just go on with
but,
it. As if the trainers weren't bad enough, I've gone on a few more now.
so I'm not a huge. I don't have huge knowledge about the history of the family dating back that far. But I think it's just a reflection on King Charles, how he wants to be more inclusive.
Yes, but
it
we're
seems
seeing
to me,
footage
and
of them
bringing
now
the
going to
family
church yesterday.
back together. Exactly, and Andrew was there obviously as well. You can see, and beautiful pictures there. Yeah, of them all sort of just gathering outside and having.
But they look relaxed and they look happy.